And the Healers and Healing series is a series that I offer to share pieces of important information about healing for healers. And I consider all of us to be healers. We have an innate ability to heal ourselves and one another. Some folks really commit to taking that work into the world. And if that's you, I support you in extra ways because I really feel like healing is paramount and helping others to heal is really, really necessary on the planet right now. So, welcome. If we're new to one another or you're just hopping in, I'm Brighid Murphy, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm a soul centered healer and also a shamanic practitioner. And I help you to move past old limiting beliefs and old stuff, including old trauma, so that you can really step into your full power and do what you came here to do. That's my whole mission here. And I've created Path to Power programs. I've created a Healers Collective. I have multiple online programs. And today, I chose today's topic because it's a huge topic for conversation. Today's topic is taking on other people's pain. So, taking on other people's pain, taking on other people's stuff. This is a common theme, a common question, a common concern, and sometimes a common occurrence, depending on your life experience. So, what I want to talk about is what that means, why it happens, what contributes to it, and I want to give you some signs that it's happening and also concrete things to do so that you can ensure that you're not taking on other people's stuff so you can be more effective in your own personal healing and in the healing work that you may be doing with others now or in the future. All right. What does it mean to take on other people's stuff? What does that mean? What does it mean personally? What does it mean in your own healing practice? And if you are helping other people to heal now or in the future, you're going to need this information. It just is because this always comes up. So, what it means is to take on other people's stuff is that you're taking responsibility for other people's stuff, other people's situation, other people's karma, other people's pain, other people's worries, other people's stuff, and you're suffering from it. It's one thing to hold something with someone and to help them explore it and look at it and move through it. It's another thing to take responsibility for it and then you're suffering from it. You don't want to take responsibility for other people's pain, as tempting as it might be sometimes if you're a helper or a healer. And sometimes this pain or this stuff that I'm talking about, sometimes it's physical and sometimes it's emotional. I hear people will say that they can feel pain in their body that other people are experiencing or that they feel like they've taken on pain physically from other people. And I hear that emotionally as well. So, what contributes to that? What contributes to taking on other people's pain? And if you're here live, let me know you're live. Send me an emoji so I know you're here. A couple things contribute to it. First thing is, and these are in no particular order, and every time I come on with a training and share with you, I chalk these trainings and these sessions full of information that I have discovered through 20 years of working with people, one-on-one and in groups. So I'm not pulling this out of the air somewhere or sharing it with you because it sounds good or because somebody told it to me. These are experiences that I have had through working with people over all these years. So, what contributes to taking on other people's stuff? One thing is being too attached to helping someone. Being too attached to helping someone. Sometimes you can be over attached and over invested in somebody else's healing. That can contribute to it. Also, over identifying with their problem and trying to work your own shit out for yourself as you over identify with their problem. That can create an unhealthy situation where you're taking on other people's stuff. Another thing that can contribute to it is if you've got unresolved stuff that you're not looking at and dealing with somebody else's stuff or helping somebody else is a distraction from your own stuff. That can cause you to take on other people's stuff, and it can drain you. I questioned myself on that for a while. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about it later in this session. I'm always questioning myself as a healer and a helper and somebody who gives a lot and somebody who has a lot of energy that moves through them. I'm always looking at my relationship to my role. And I looked at that at a point, and I actually did an experiment for myself to make sure that my unresolved stuff wasn't being put on the back burner as I used healing or helping others to heal as a distraction. So that contributes to it. Another thing that contributes to taking on other people's stuff is not being fully experienced in your healing practice and not recognizing that you don't have to take on other people's stuff in order to heal them. Over the last, 3 decades, I have heard people often say, well, I can take people's headaches away. Well, I can take people's pain away. And when I ask them about that, and I get details, some of these people are telling me that they're taking other people's pain into their bodies, and that's how they are removing other people's pain. Totally not necessary, totally unhealthy. I resolve people's pain and help people to get rid of their pain all the time. I do hands-on work, and I'm not taking their pain into my body. It is not necessary. So, and some people don't know that. Some people think that in order to help someone else, they have to pull pain out and put it in themselves. And it just doesn't work that way. There's so many easier ways to do that. Why even put yourself through that? And why put yourself through that? Because maybe you don't know how to do it differently. So not being fully experienced in your healing practice and not realizing that you can do it differently is a contributing factor to taking on other people's pain. And being new on a healing path or not having any guidance on a healing path, whether it's guidance from your spirits, your sacred helpers, your guides, or a human being, that can lead to and contribute to being drained by taking on someone else's pain. Okay, I want to move on. We talked about what it means to take on other people's stuff. We talked about what contributes to that. I want to talk about why people think this happens. People think this happens. Hey, Morelia, thank you for letting me know you're here. Angela, hello, hello. I love your emoji. I like the hair. That's cute. Why people think this happens. People will often say, well, I'm an empath. I just take on other people's stuff. I can't help it. I just feel everything. And that's a myth. That's actually not a reason to take on other people's pain. Being an empath does not give you like a license where you have to suffer. That is a myth. There's a different way to do it. And I hear that all the time. People will say, well, I'm an empath. I take it all on. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Another reason why people think it happens that you take on other people's pain is people will say, well, if you're not protected, you're going to take on other people's stuff. You have to protect yourself. And whereas I agree that you need to have a process in place for managing your energy, I don't think you need to protect yourself all the time. If you've got to protect yourself all the time from the people that you're working with, you need to change what you're doing or not do it, because that's not how this works. Last thing, at least for right now, about why people think it happens that you take on other people's pain is that There's this belief that human beings are oozing crap all over the place. And if you get too near them, it's going to get on you, or you're going to pull it in. Like your chakras are just waiting to suck in other people's shit. And that's not the case either. But people think this. People think this. I'm an empath. I'm sensitive. I'm highly sensitive. I'm all the things. And I have worked with people who have a lot of stuff going on, and I don't take it on. It's not oozing all over me. I'm an empath and a sensitive person who's learned how to manage and work with her own energy. And that makes a big, big difference. Okay, so these are reasons of why people think that you can take on other people's pain. Now I want to talk about why it actually happens. Why does it happen that you might take on someone else's pain? Well, a couple things. Depends on what it is, really. It does depend on what it is. And each case is a little different. It happens when you don't understand that you need to draw a boundary. You can take on other people's stuff if you don't understand that you need to draw a boundary. Or when you don't know how to draw that boundary. A lot of times, due to trauma and patterns and history, we know we should be drawing a boundary, but we don't actually know how to do it. Those are two reasons why this happens. Another reason why it happens is when you have past trauma, and everyone has trauma, and it feels unsafe to draw a boundary. So if it feels unsafe to draw a boundary and you're not drawing a boundary, you may be taking on other people's stuff. It also happens when you're in fear. Fear creates an opening sometimes in us where we bring in other people's stuff. So being in fear or moving out of fear and moving into a solid place is really important if you're going to do healing work with other people. And it also happens that you take on other people's stuff if you're not managing your energy. If you're not managing your physical, emotional, and psychic energy, you're going to be experiencing other people's stuff unnecessarily. You cannot help other people and be a hot mess all the time. You have to be able to take care of yourself. And if you're not, you're going to be shown and stopped by a couple of things. And one of the things is that you're experiencing all sorts of stuff that isn't yours. So it happens when you're not in right relationship with your role as a healer. Healer has a role. A role has responsibilities. Part of the role and the responsibility of being a healer is to know where your own boundaries are and to take care of your container and to manage your own show. I refer to this as my own show. No one's going to manage it for me. I have to manage it, and so do you. And another reason why it happens, and this is a big one, that you take on other people's stuff and suffer from it, is it happens so that you can learn from it. It happens so that you can have that experience, say, oh, I don't want to have that experience. What's going on? Let me look a little deeper and learn from it so you can move on. If you're somebody who feels, if you're taking on other people's stuff, it's not a life sentence. If you become aware of it, you can learn from it and you can change it. Okay, so what are some signs that you're doing it? Some signs that you're taking on other people's stuff. One of the signs is you cannot say no. You cannot say no when people ask you to do something for them. You're always saying yes. You can't draw a boundary. It's hard to say no. Another sign is that you never feel like you're doing enough. If you never feel like you're doing enough, you're going to be trying to do more. You're going to be stretching your own boundaries, and you're more likely to try to take on other people's stuff. Also, another sign that you're doing it is that you feel hyper responsible for another person's well-being. Hyper responsible. If you don't do it, nobody's going to do it. And if you don't help this person right now, they're going down. That's not healthy. There are situations that you need to step in, right? And you need to do something now. And if you're living your life like that, if every single person in your life is, I need to do it now, and if I don't do it, nobody's going to do it, then you're in a syndrome which is another conversation to have. So when you feel responsible, hyper responsible for other people's well being, that's a sign that you could be taking on their stuff. Another sign is you're drained all the time for no apparent reason, and you feel everybody's yucky feelings. So that's not only a sign that you're taking on people's stuff, it's a sign that you don't have good boundaries or healthy boundaries. I don't like the good or the bad thing. Another sign that you're taking on other people's stuff is that if you feel like if you don't help them, nobody is going to help them. It is ultimately your job and nobody else can do it better than you. That's a sign that you could be taking on other people's stuff. And the final sign, and not that there aren't more, but this is where I'm going to stop because I could go on for hours. The final sign that I want to mention that you could be doing this is that you can't leave your sessions or your healing work or your whatever you're doing to help other people, professionally or not. You can't leave them in the treatment room. If you're taking everybody's stuff home with you and you're angsting about every single person you're trying to help, you're probably taking on their stuff. It's normal as a healer that every once in a while, like there's a challenging something that touches your heart or that you really feel strongly about, and you think about it outside of the time you're doing work with that person. That's normal. But when it's common that you can't leave your treatments in the session room, then it's a good sign you're taking on other people's stuff. Okay. The good news is, so we've covered a lot so far. Like to pack this with lots of information. You may need to go back and listen again. Good news is that if you're aware of this, you can shift it. This isn't a life sentence. You can change how you're doing it. Well, I should say, it's not a life sentence to be taking on other people's stuff unless you want it to be. If you want to make that agreement, that's totally up to you. You go on with your bad self. I don't. I have other things to do. I need to live my life and not be carrying and managing and taking other people's stuff on all the time. So I'm going to give you 5 ways. I know 5's a lot, but I like options. 5 ways that you can avoid this happening in your life. One is look at what you're getting out of helping. What are you actually getting out of helping other people? That is like a 3-day workshop right there. What are you getting out of helping? Is there balance? What are you getting out of helping? If there's not balance, you need to go deeper and you need to take a look at what's going on there. A lot of times people will say, oh, no, I don't need anything in return. I'm just doing this out of the goodness of my heart. Goodness of your heart is great, but if you're constantly giving and constantly helping and there's nothing that you're getting out of it that's good, or there's nothing that you're getting out of it at all, that's a problem because you're not maintaining balance. So look at what you're getting out of helping other people. Are you getting things that are healthy, or is there an unhealthy attachment? And take a look at that. Second thing that you can do to avoid this happening and not take on other people's stuff is to get in a good relationship with healing. Create distance between your role as a healer and your role in your life. Now, as somebody who lives a life full of healing, teaching, offering things, it could be very easy for me to have people at my doorstep 24/7 who need stuff. And I have to create a healthy boundary. So I've created a process for how I work with people. And I apply that process in a gentle, loving way with anybody who is interested in healing work. At times I've had phone calls and messages saying, so-and-so is totally stressed out. Can you help them? And I have learned that there's a way to handle that. There's a way that I can offer assistance. And if I don't do it in a certain way, I could be doing crisis management all day long. And that's not my job. That's not how I roll. That's not my job in healing. And even if it were, there would need to be a protocol for bringing people in, because that helps to create a container for them and me. So That is how I stay in a good relationship with my role as healer and the rest of my life. I create a way for people to work with me. And I don't just say yes every time somebody's in a crisis. I wouldn't have a life. There's crisis all the time. Somebody's always needing something. Um, and looking at why you're helping, what your motive is for helping other people. Because sometimes we have motives that are not so healthy. And that isn't always comfortable to look at. I remember at one point early on, I worked at a shop and it was a metaphysical shop. A lot of people came in needing a lot, needing a lot of healing. And I was always helping everybody all the time. And I thought to myself, is this healthy? Am I really in a good relationship with the healing and the helping that I'm doing? Should I be giving this much? Is this a natural skill that I have, or am I like trying to get something out of it because I'm looking to fill a wounded place, like this sort of, you know, wound that I'm feeling and ignoring my own shit because I'm trying to help other people? Am I using my healing abilities as a distraction from me? Some deep stuff here. So I thought, well, let me see if I'm trying too hard to help people, I can do an experiment. I can stop trying. I can just put up a different boundary and stop trying and see what happens and see how that feels. And so that's exactly what I did. I didn't go out of my way to offer any advice. I just stayed quiet. And this is probably for at least a month, maybe more. And I noticed and observed myself and the other people. And from what I realized, and I don't need to go into all the details because they'll probably bore you, is that didn't I was actually in a good relationship with the healing, and the healing that moves through me is a gift that I don't own, and that whether I try or not try, people are still going to come, because this doesn't have anything to do with me. It's what I'm here for. But if I didn't do that little experiment, I wouldn't have known. So recognize if you're trying too hard to help people, and look and see if there's underlying motives for why you're constantly trying to help. If you're getting drained or you feel like you're taking on other people's stuff. Another thing is look at your own trauma patterns. Another way to, we're at the point where I'm talking about how to avoid taking on other people's stuff. Look at your own trauma patterns. Do you have a habit of making everyone feel good so that you feel safe? Do you have a habit of trying to make everybody feel good and take care of everybody else so that you feel safe? That can really contribute to you taking on other people's stuff. And if that's your situation, get some guidance and some mentorship, because that's really what you need. Third thing, way that you can avoid taking on other people's stuff is to withdraw your energy from places that it doesn't belong. Don't keep putting your feelers out if they don't need to be. Bring your energy back to you. I've got a whole program on this, actually, that I talk about this all the time. I'm giving this program away right now for anybody who joins my Awaken course. If you're in there already, you have access to it. If you haven't and you want to join, make sure you let me know, because this is some powerful stuff. So withdraw your energy from places that it doesn't belong. Sometimes we have our energy in places consciously and sometimes unconsciously. And the good news is that when you know how to bring it back, you can do that, whether it's a conscious or unconscious thing. Fourth thing is to hold your job lightly and learn to recognize when there's an opening for help. Hold your job and your role of helping other people lightly, and learn to recognize when there's an opening for help. Like, really pay attention. For example, when I see somebody who I know could use healing work, I can read it on their body. I can read it in their language. I get all the things. I observe. I watch. I don't run to the scene and tell them I can help them. I can balance your chakras. I can remove that tumor in your belly. I don't shove it into people. I wait and I watch. And I recognize, and I want you to be able to do this too, that everybody is on a healing journey. Everybody is on a healing journey. whether you see it or not, whether they are supposed to be conscious of it or not. Because some people are supposed to be super conscious of healing and some people aren't. And either way, healing is occurring. Our judgment around whether healing is occurring or not, that's what it is. It's a judgment. Everybody is healing on some level. And it's not our job. It's not my job as a healer to bring everyone's consciousness to the fact that they need to heal. It's not my job. I have learned when to reach out, when to sit back. And having that, developing that skill and that knowing is really, really crucial and will help you to ensure that you're not taking on other people's stuff. Healing work and helping other people to heal will challenge you at times. That's what it does. And it should bring you joy. It should bring you a sense of purpose and a feeling of purpose, not pain. You should not be in pain if you're helping other people. If you're in pain, go back and listen to this again, because helping others is a gift. And the majority of the time, you should not be in pain. You should not be taking on other people's pain. The fifth way that you can avoid this from happening is to get some support. Invest in your own self-development, your own programs, your own coaching, so that you can be in integrity with your own helping nature. Because it doesn't always come naturally to be in integrity with your helping nature. Therapists, coaches, social workers, people who help other people have people who are helping them. Nobody stands on the field alone. And if they do, they don't do it for long. And if they do it for long, they lose their ability to be in integrity with their own healing abilities, because we're not supposed to be an island. So if you feel like you're taking people's stuff on regularly, look at this stuff and find somebody that you can find somebody or something that you can invest in to help you and mentor you. And you might see this, I mean, some of you might be listening to this and saying like, oh, I do some of this stuff, you know, how do I change it? If you're not sure how to change it, one of the ways that you can change things is to reframe your statements or your thoughts. Sometimes when we have a problem and we don't know how to fix it, we say, I don't know why I do this. I hear this all the time from people who are giving their energy away or taking on other people's pain. I don't know why I do this. Maybe it's because I'm an empath. I don't know what to do. I don't know why I do this. It just happens and it drains me. Stop saying that and start saying, I want to know what to do about this. I want to know how to change this. And then listen and pay attention to what is incoming. Because when you go from, I don't know what to do, I don't know why I do this, to, I want to know what to do, it changes the energy, which changes the intention, which changes what you draw to you, and then you can find help for yourself. Follow people who have a handle on this stuff and work with them. So those are all of the things that you can do to ensure that you are not taking on other people's pain, because it's a crappy place to be and it drains you, and you don't need to be. Healing yourself and other people should not be continuously draining. So we've covered a lot here in this session on taking on other people's stuff. I talked about what it means to take on other people's stuff, why we do it, why we think we do it, and I've given you 5 ways to avoid doing it. 5 ways that you can avoid doing it so that you can do things differently. You're not effective if you're drained, and you don't need to be drained. You don't need to take on other people's stuff. That's not part of the expectation. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. I want to know what your takeaways are. Let me know what your biggest takeaway is from what I just shared with you. Let me know. And if you have questions, make sure you put a question mark and let me know. And thank you for joining me, whether you're here live or for the replay. for healers and healing, taking on other people's stuff.